let's talk about something that's quietly happening in California. You know the public services we all count on? Our parks, our schools, our roads? They're facing this hidden crisis. It turns out they're becoming uninsurable. And the bill? Yeah, that's getting sent to every single taxpayer. We're going to break down exactly how this is happening. And it all starts in a place you would probably never expect. So let me ask you a question. What's the cost of a single falling tree? I know it sounds like some kind of riddle, right? But in California, it's a very real question, and the answer has a staggering price tag. I mean, think about it. A tree branch falls in a public park, and a tragedy happens. What's the financial fallout for the city? And more importantly, for you? Get ready for this. $24.2 million. That was the jury award against the city of Davis after a woman was tragically killed by a falling tree limb back in 2021 for one single incident.
And believe me, this was not a one-off. Nope. In Ventura, a similar tragedy led to a $19 million settlement.
And then in Whittier, a $28 million settlement was paid out after a tree fell during a wedding party. You see the pattern here, right? These aren't just accidents. They're becoming fiscal catastrophes for our local governments.
So, what in the world is going on? How did we get here? Well, these staggering numbers, they're really just symptoms of a much, much bigger problem. You could call it a perfect storm of risk that's been brewing for years. See, it's not just one thing. It's three incredibly powerful forces all colliding at once. First, you've got catastrophic wildfires on a scale we've just never seen before. At the very same time, the liability verdicts coming out of our courtrooms are just skyrocketing. And then, to top it all off, we've got new laws that are fundamentally changing the rules of who can be sued and for how much.
Okay, let's start with the wildfires. The insured losses from the Los Angeles wildfires in January 2025 alone were estimated to be as high as $75 billion. $75 billion! That single event puts an almost unimaginable amount of pressure on the entire insurance system.
And just think about what that really means for the system. The California FAIR Plan, which is supposed to be the state's insurer of last resort, the safety net, is now on the brink. Its own president warned that they are just one major event away from having to slap a huge surcharge on every single policyholder in the state. The safety net is absolutely breaking.
So, when you're faced with that level of insane risk, what do you think the big insurance companies are doing? They're running for the exit. Seriously, giants like State Farm and Allstate are pulling back, they're hitting pause on new policies. And what that means for us is less competition, fewer options, and much, much higher costs for everyone, from homeowners to the very cities and schools that need this insurance the most.
Now, the second driver of this crisis has this kind of weird name, social inflation. But it's got nothing to do with the economy, really. It's about a shift in society. Juries are now awarding these huge, huge sums, not just for medical bills and lost wages, but for things like emotional distress. And these verdicts can be many, many times larger than the actual economic damages. And then there's the third driver, which is all about legislation. These things called reviver statutes, like California's Assembly Bill 218, have basically opened a legal window for people to sue for abuses that happened decades ago, long after the original time limit to file a claim had passed. And the financial fallout from these new laws, it's almost hard to comprehend. Just look at this number. That's the settlement amount for thousands of abuse claims against LA County Children's Services, many of them cases that were only possible because of these new laws. $4 billion.
You can see how this creates an impossible situation, right? Public agencies are being held financially liable today for events that happened back in the 70s or 80s. I mean, these are risks they never planned for, never collected funds for, and for which they have basically no records left to even mount a defense.
Now, to be fair, California has seen insurance crises before. There were a couple of rough patches in the 70s and 80s. But this just feels different. When you combine climate change, these massive jury awards, and these new retroactive laws, the real question is, are we just in another temporary storm, or is this the new, permanent, and much more expensive reality? So let's just boil this all down into the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly is what we've been talking about, the catastrophic verdicts, the new laws, the wildfire crisis. The bad is the direct result. Budgets are strained to the breaking point and insurers are leaving the state. But there is some good here. There are some clear, defined strategies that can help public agencies navigate this mess.
Okay, so why should you care about any of this? I mean, it's just insurance stuff, right? Wrong.
This isn't some abstract financial problem happening in an office building somewhere. It has a real, painful impact on the services in your community every single day.
Right now, local governments are facing a totally impossible choice. They have to divert money from today's budget, money that was meant for our parks, our libraries, and our schools, to pay for settlements from events that happened before a lot of us were even born. They are literally sacrificing the present to pay for the past.
And this isn't just a hypothetical problem. These are real cuts happening right now. LA County had to slash budgets for things like parks and public defense. The Poway School District had to lay off educators. LA Unified had to go $500 million into debt just to pay claims. And for smaller districts, a single large verdict can mean they go broke, and the state has to take over.
Which really brings us to the core ethical dilemma of this entire crisis, doesn't it? Why should today's students have fewer teachers, and why should today's taxpayers get fewer services, all to pay for the failures of generations ago?
But it's not hopeless. In the face of all this, public risk managers have developed a really disciplined playbook for survival. It requires some incredibly tough choices, but it's designed to protect taxpayers in the long run.
So how do you fight back? Well, public agencies have a 4-part playbook. Step 1 is simple. Stop undercharging for risk. Price it correctly. Step 2 is absolutely crucial. Save for a rainy day. Seriously, when you have a good year with fewer claims, you don't give that money back as a surplus, you save it, because a bad year is always coming. Step 3, put a cap on your losses. Structure your insurance so you know the absolute maximum hit you could possibly take. And finally, step 4, advocate. You have to go to the lawmakers and push for reforms to fix this broken system. And here's the core strategy in a nutshell. You've got to know which risks to own and which ones to offload. For the everyday, predictable claims, yeah, you can manage those yourself. But for the rare, catastrophic events, the massive wildfire, the record-setting verdict, you transfer that risk. You buy insurance precisely for those low-frequency, high-severity events to protect your core funds.
And all of this, it leaves us with the hardest question of all. What does fair really mean in this context? Is a system that gives one person $30 million while forcing cuts to schools and parks for everyone else truly a just system? There's really no easy answer to that one.